Welcome everyone, thanks for joining us for today's episode of Canal Days. As always, I am your host, Carrie, along with my co-host, founder of Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Como. As our Canal Days series delves into the vast collection of historical sites throughout Massachusetts, Robert's expertise of the local history will be your personal guide. Each episode, we uncover history throughout local communities with historic houses, meaningful monuments, preeminent pivotal pioneers, and remarkable remaining remnants, all while uncovering their seminal significance. Today's episode of Canal Days will be learning about the Mount Holyoke College in South Hadley, Massachusetts. So, summarize the early history of the college.
It was started by Mary Lyons in the year 1837 as her second seminary for young girls and women. Her first one was Wheaton, and she brought it up from there. It was a religious school. It was primarily for high school age students, and it was a place where they would learn not only English and math, but all the academic subjects and also religious studies. So it started out in a very religious manner. And we're going to talk about some of the older buildings and the geographic features and the recent history. Now, this old-time pre-1900 history includes, in 1890, they finally moved into being a college, still for a woman, where it was a religious seminary for high school students before that, for young girls. So it was quite the move, but they had been moving in that direction by offering college courses. And so they gave up on their background of having it be a high school. But it was still a little bit religious in the sense it had a religious background and offered religious courses. But this was a movement a lot of colleges and religious seminaries going through. So it wasn't the first women's college at all. That was in 1875 when Smith College came around. But it's one of the very earliest institutions that became a college. And there's about 10 of them that compete for that honor, and this is one of the many.
And reveal some of the original buildings.
All right, all the very pre-1900 buildings I got, except for, I believe, two. Right? So from 1837 to 1897, there's no buildings left from that era. The chapel is gone, the classroom area is gone, the original dormitory is gone. Then the classroom area burned again. So none of the early religious buildings or dormitory so forth are around anymore. The oldest building left is Abbey Chapel from 1897 and Dwight Hall from 1899. And those are the only two pre-1900 buildings. And that's why it's not considered a historic landmark, because all the very important buildings are long gone, so nothing of their originals are still in place. But at least you have that chapel, which is 128 years old at this point, which is wonderful. It looks very old. And a lot of the old buildings are right towards the front, left as you look into the college gates. And then scattered around the back would be some buildings from the early 1900s, especially towards the left. And then towards the middle 1900s, they're scattered towards the far back, right and left, as dormitories and classrooms. And then even in recent times, they kept building up.
And stick around and we'll be right back after this quick announcement. Are you fascinated by local history and eager to investigate the obscure treasures off the beaten path throughout the state of Massachusetts? Or maybe just seeking an unforgettable cultural activity for family and friends to enjoy? Look no further than Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, founded by Robert Como. With over a decade of experience, Robert offers captivating tours and presentations of historic sites and landmarks throughout the state. Whether you're interested in canals, cemeteries, charming churches, or more, Robert's tours provide a unique and enriching experience for all. And that's not it. You can also schedule private tours tailored to your interests, ensuring a personalized adventure and unforgettable memories. Perfect for families or groups of all sizes, making for an exciting hands-on learning experience that brings history to life. Simply visit HolyokeCanalTour.org or email bobcat4214, capital B, @yahoo.com to book your private tour today. Getting back to our podcast on Mount Holyoke College in South Hadley, Massachusetts, describe a few of the geographic features throughout the campus.
Yes, these are of great interest because the middle section of the campus was originally designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, and it's not known exactly what he did or what was done there off his plans. I've yet to see his plans, if they even still exist. And a lot of times you really have to research even the plans to see if they really were constructed in that way. And then in the early 1900s, his sons came in and did a little more designing. So the campus has been designed twice by the Olmsteds. And the college itself is on a hill, like most colleges are. And that's not because the college wants to be up there. It's that these early communities were always centered around a hill. And then when they developed high schools or colleges, they always put them up towards the center. That's the only reason why. So Mount Holyoke's on near the top of Sandy Hill and has Prospect Hill in its background towards the east. And towards the west, it has an observatory, but there's a great view of the Mount Tom Range, and slightly north by northwest, there is the Mount Holyoke Range, after which the college was named. So there were very few trees in 1837 in this section of South Hadley, and the Mount Holyoke Range was very, very obvious or easy to see, and thus Mary Lyons named the college after that mountain range.
And clarify the recent history of the college.
All right, so as society changes, so doesn't the campus. New wings to older buildings have been put on, especially like on the chemistry and physics area, of course. And other buildings have been rehabbed. For instance, the library, about 30 years ago, was brought into the digital age and it was rehabbed inside greatly, but it kept its older look in a portion of the inside and on the outside, definitely. And then it's made new buildings, especially towards the south, along Morgan Street. A new dormitory went in there about 30 years ago, and that has been made to fit in to make it look old. So a lot of these buildings in the last 80 years have been constructed to make them look very old, to fit into the 1890s and early 1900s buildings. And then they've built up a great athletic field, and Kendall Auditorium is where they have the indoor sports area. And they've changed time greatly. They had constructed a retail village across the street, and I noticed they put in a beautiful nature walk off of the Upper Lakes hiking trail. So they've stayed with the times, and as students want to learn different fields, they've offered those fields. So it's a wonderful college to attend. If you want to further your studies, it's part of the 5 college community, which is the 5 colleges around that area: Smith College, Hampshire College, Amherst College, and the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. So, and I've went to that last one, and so I know that the programs are very good.
And thanks for listening to Canal Days and our episode on the Mount Holyoke College. and joining us on our journey through the rich history of the Connecticut River Valley. We hope you enjoyed uncovering some of the hidden and overlooked marvels and their fascinating stories that shaped our past in the state of Massachusetts. A special thanks to Robert Camus, founder of the Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, for sharing his passion and expertise with us. Remember, you can find more information about Robert's tours, the book Private Tours, and explore the Canal Days video and podcast series at holyokecanaltour.org. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, comment, and share. We'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes. Don't forget to keep exploring and discovering history that is hidden in plain sight all around us. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to tune in to our next episode of Canal Days.